Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Arguably two of the most recognizable comic book franchises in existence. With multiple movies, animated series, toy merchandise to their resumes, it's not hard to see why they have endured for so long. The advent of the 2016 comic book by James Tynion IV and Freddie Williams II answered the question of what would happen if these two worlds would ever cross over. As someone who loves both franchises, how did this movie fare? It's time to find out when worlds collide. What really surprised me is how the two worlds complement each other, given Batman's patented, grim and brooding storytelling with the goofy and light-hearted nature of the Ninja Turtles. But this is what gives such a good balance to the story. Of course, most of the goofy antics of the Turtles comes from Mikey, which doesn't surprise me at all, given how throughout the franchise's existence he is the one turtle that takes anything very little seriously. Raph comes intact as the Wolverine of the group, fight first, ask questions later. Donatello still being the logical and technological wizard that he is, my fave turtle as well. Leonardo is as true blue as ever, with a little more focus. But that being said, given that this was rated PG-13, there is more of an edge to this animated movie, and truth be told, I think that's what it needed. Considering we live in a time where entertainment is trying to be softened to where there is hardly any edge to it, this movie comes in as a breath of fresh air where it's not talking down to its audience, but at the same time knowing its boundaries and respecting them. And by that, you see that the fights are brutal, but at the same time there's never any blood and or gore. But then again, for a PG-13, that's out of the question. I enjoyed the idea of the Turtles facing Batman rogues from the Penguin to Ra's al Ghul, and Batman facing the Shredder, or Hiroku Saki, if you want to be technical. Shredder's fight with the Dark Knight is done in such a way where the two are evenly matched, with Batman having to step up his game in the final fight, knowing what had occurred in the first encounter, where he barely walked away from the fight, especially with the nerve attack. There is conflict with both sides. Bats has issues with the Turtles being able to follow orders, and even Ra's criticizes the way Shredder handles his contributions to their plan to take over Gotham. Safe to say that the villains butt heads more than the heroes. What surprised me is that it's Raphael that convinces Batman of why he needs the Turtles when he dismisses them while still recovering from his transformation back from his own mutation of Man-Bat. That was the other thing that I got a kick out of from watching this, was being able to spot various references from both franchises. Granted, it was more nods to the Turtles, but it was done in such a way where it pleased everyone's inner child that grew up with these franchises. From being able to spot nods to the opening of the 80s cartoon, a nod to the original movie poster, a moment to the napkin suggestion from The Secret of the Ooze, and Mikey mentioning that Donnie does machines and that he's the party dude. That and seeing the party wagon with a few add-ons was pleasing to the eye, as I, and many other Turtle fans, wanted that van as a toy. I wanted the blimp more, but to each their own. From what I understand, the movie stays pretty accurate to the source material, where the only difference is that both Batman and the Turtles live in the same world and not alternate realities like it was depicted in the comic book. That's something that other studios could learn from when adapting stories, but that's a story unto itself. I was a little unsure of Troy Baker's take on Batman, given that this was his first outing as the Dark Knight. This must have been interesting for him to play both the Knight and his antagonist as well, as he voiced the Joker before, which sounds more like a youthful version of Mark Hamill's take on the character. But then again, if you're gonna learn, you may as well learn from the best. To be fair to Baker, he performed well as both, even if his performance as Bat was sounding a little too much like Kevin Conroy. The only difference is Baker doesn't phone his in. Conroy, I got love for you, you know that, but it's clear that you're bored in your performances as of late. If I could denote one cast member, it would be Tara Strong's performance as Harley Quinn. I enjoyed her performance as Batgirl from the animated series and her return to the role in The Killing Joke. I thought she was amazing as Ben 10, but her version of Harley sounds like what would happen if Angelica from Rugrats decided to play the character, and it just comes off as cringy and unbearable. Rachel Bloom, however, was amazing as Batgirl. I got given reminders of Danielle Judovitz's performance from 2004 of The Batman, with her charming and witty dialogue. She plays well off of Baron Von's Donatello. And the rest of the cast, from the Turtles to Robin, they all turn in amazing performances. And I found that Raphael's voice actor had a really good rapport with Damian Wayne's voice actor. So voice acting, aside from Tara Strong, I couldn't denote anything. The animation felt very reminiscent from 2004's The Batman, where it had this anime-influenced style which some call pseudo-anime. That, of course, originated from Jeff Matsuda from Jackie Chan Adventures, who would go on to be the chief animation designer for The Batman. And it works for both Batman as well as the Turtles. The characters are very expressive, especially Batgirl, as I enjoyed the way her cowl would allow the eyes to express her emotions and quirkiness, particularly when she's conveying the potential side effects of the retro mutagen. The score has the right balance of the dark broodiness that we've come to expect with Batman movies over the years, live action and animated, and this is no exception. Balanced with the quirkiness of the Turtles moments in the movie that offers that nice blend, especially at the end when we see the Bat family eating pizza in the Batcave with the heroes in a half shell. The score is perfect. If I could mark the movie down for one thing, is that the title feels misleading. The actual fight between the Turtles and Batman only lasts for a few minutes before it spends the rest of the movie with them teaming up. I think the Batman and TMNT movie probably would have served better as a title. But even with that little nitpick, it does not take anything away from something that most of us had childhood fantasies of in the 80s and 90s, and then seeing this to come to fruition as an official crossover movie. If someone had told me in 1990 that these two would meet together in a movie nearly 30 years later, I would have said they were nuts. But this is what happens when an idea is pitched forward and becomes popular enough for the merit and necessity to take form as a movie. But I have to marvel at the fact that DC wanted to work with others and help dreams become reality, and this will likely go down as the best comic book crossover movie thus far from the fans by sticking to the source material. Because isn't that the end game? To please the fans and give them what they want? After all, the customer is always right. Now, for their next project, please give me Justice League Power Rangers crossover. Until next time, good night from the night.